What is your name?
Margaret Hunt, but I'm called Maggie.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Vermont. I got married 1944. I married somebody from Minnesota. He went to school at Dartmouth. He was a medical student, and they only had a 2-year med school there, so he transferred to the University of Minnesota.
I myself am 13. What was life like when you were my age?
13? Ooh. Well, this is a very small town with a very small school. They had a girls' basketball team that played before the boys' basketball team because they didn't have enough for junior varsity. And so we played basketball and skied. I had 4 brothers, so I skied a lot. And when we first skied, we didn't have edges on our skis. We had just leather boots. We had to walk up sidestep up the hill and ski down. We didn't have any toes until we went somewhere else and they had a rope toe. So I spent a lot of my time doing sports because of my brothers. I loved my childhood. We lived with my grandparents because my father had died when I was 4, and I don't remember him at all. But I had the 4 brothers and wonderful grandparents. And we had to do a lot of work, but work never hurt anybody.
Do you remember the first time you rode in a car?
It would have been my Uncle Jake's car. My mother had polio, so she had a paralyzed leg. I was probably 5, 6.
What kind of car was it?
Well, actually, we went to Florida so my mother could swim when I was 3.5 years old. And we were there from November till June. And so we drove down in a touring car, and I don't know what kind it was. Probably Ford, but I don't know. Would have had to been quite large.
Tell me about your first telephone.
Oh, we did have a telephone because my grandfather was in the electrical contracting business. So a lot of people had party lines, but we had our own line.
Tell me about your school.
Oh, my school, I tell you, the first, second, and third grades were in one room. The third, fourth, and fifth were in another room downstairs. Upstairs was the junior high and the high school, if you can imagine that.
How many kids in each class?
With my class, there were 9. First, second, and third grade, we had one teacher, and third, fourth, and fifth, we had one teacher. No, fourth, fifth, and sixth, we had one teacher.
Wow.
But a lot of people went to one-room schools in rural places. But anyway, it was
So you went to that same high school?
same high school my mother went to.
Wow.
But we had some good teachers.
Yeah.
We were very lucky.
Did you go to college?
Yes, I did. It was rather mixed up because my parents had gone to Middlebury College, and I went to Middlebury College my first year, and I had a brother there who was a junior, and another brother that went with me as a freshman.
Do you remember your first day? Your first day at college?
Oh, at college? I don't remember. I didn't date much because I did so many sports, and I waited on tables.
So you played basketball in high school?
Yes, and skied, and volleyball.
Wow.
And in college, my freshman year, I got on the All-Middlebury softball team, the All-Middlebury basketball team, and I was the only freshman girl on the ski team.
Wow.
And I was secretary of my class.
Wow.
Wow, that's
Aside from that, and waiting on tables, I didn't have much time.
Were you part of a sorority?
Yes, Phi Mu.
Tell me about your sorority sisters.
I wasn't all that thrilled with the sorority, partly because when they, pick who they're going to take to be in a sorority, so many girls were so unhappy that I wondered why we even had them, because I felt so badly for the girls that didn't get in who wanted to. So I wasn't a real big fan of sororities.
How was 95 how is like when you're 95? How is it different than you thought it would be when you were younger?
You can't do as much. You have a lot more problems. But, you know, you keep busy.
How did you think it would be when you were young?
I never dreamed I'd live to be 90, much less 95.
Uh-huh.
But here I am.
Well, you don't look a day over 65.
Yeah, right.
What was considered the best tech back when you were like my age?
There wasn't any technology. We had a radio, no TV. That, you know.
Yeah, how do you think the radio has changed from then to now?
Well, I don't think people listen to radios too much except in cars, because they have sometimes NPR, but otherwise most people get their news on the TV or iPads, whatever.
Yeah. What was your favorite thing to do when you were little?
Skiing and swimming. We learned to swim in a river.
Oh, wow.
By the time we got home, we were hotter than when we started out.
Do you like still swim or ski now?
No, not anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, I did.
How long did you ski? When did you stop skiing?
I stopped skiing when I was in my 60s because we moved to New Mexico. Yeah, well, actually, we did ski in New Mexico, but I was probably 65. Then my husband couldn't ski anymore, so we didn't ski.
Who did you admire the most in your time?
Growing up, probably the Roosevelts, Eleanor Roosevelt, but I married into a very Republican family, so I had to listen to how terrible they were. But I didn't say anything. But my husband ended up voting Democratic. The only
You
one.
finally got through to him.
I think they thought I was a bad influence on him. I think you said your wife was like that too.
How many kids or grandkids did you have?
I have 6 daughters.
Wow.
After having 4 brothers, no sisters. My mother had 5 brothers and no sisters.
Oh.
Wow, so you had all this brother experience, and then all you had was girls.
And I loved growing up with boys. And I said to them when they were older, I said, I didn't know what to do with girls. And they said, you brought us up like boys. So, outdoors.
Did your daughters play sports?
Yes, they did. And they loved the outdoors.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you have any grandkids?
I have 8, 1 grandson, 7 granddaughters.
Wow.
And I have 4 great-grandsons and 1 great-granddaughter.
Wow. Who was a bigger role model for you, mom or dad?
Well, my dad died on my first
Oh,
birthday.
yeah.
I don't remember him at all. My mom was amazing. She was a Vermont Mother of the Year in 1955.
Wow, how do you get to be that?
Somebody nominates you, and anyway.
Now you mentioned she had polio when you were quite young.
No, well, yes, because she got it when we were all a year apart. When my father died, we were 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.5.
Wow, that must have been
And she
tough
had
on
polio
you.
when my youngest brother was 6 months old. And so that's why we went to Florida. He was working in Washington, D.C., and but then he died right after we came back from Florida. So we went and lived with my grandparents.
Wow.
But my mother was amazing.
Yeah.
She
So-
taught school, but then my grandfather, she did the office work for my grandfather's electrical contracting business. I can remember her typing with 2 fingers, rat-a-tat.
What was your most prized possession?
Oh, my family, of course.
Yeah.
Now do your grandkids live around here, or they?
No, 2 of them did, but they're both married now, and one of them has a child. They're coming up this next week.
So what was different about being a grandma?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so nice being a grandmother because you know those kids are perfect. And you're not responsible.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're here for your enjoyment, purely.
Yeah.
What was the thing that you regret doing the most and why?
In life? Well, my girls asked me that once, and I said I didn't climb enough mountains. I would have liked to climb more mountains.
You climbed a lot of mountains, did you?
I did, but my husband liked to hike, but he didn't like to climb. So sometimes he'd wait at the bottom for me, and then I'd go up and run down. But I liked climbing
So
mountains.
he waited while you climbed?
He'd go part of the way, and then he'd sit
Wow.
down and wait for me. He didn't like
What
climbing.
about your daughters? Did they like
Oh,
climbing?
yes, I've got one that climbed 23 mountains last year.
Wow.
She had a knee replacement. So we've had a lot of replacements. I've had both hip replaced and this shoulder replaced.
That's the basketball, probably.
It's probably, and I played a lot of tennis too.
Wow. Very active.
Yes.
What is your biggest accomplishment?
My children,
Well, sounds like.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think most people feel like that.
If you're going to live your life again, what would you do differently?
I would have had a couple of boys.
Would you rather have a cat or a dog?
Dog.
Why?
I've just never been a cat person. We've had cats, but I'm not a cat person. I like dogs.
How did you meet your husband?
I met him when he was in medical school at Dartmouth, and I worked in Hanover for a pathologist, and I went with a boy was a second-year student for about 9 months, and then I went started going with my husband. After about 3 dates, I was a goner.
Really?
Yes.
What was it about him?
I don't know. It's some chemistry.
Uh-huh.
It really is, I think.
So he went on to become a doctor?
Yes, he was an OBGYN,
Uh,
so he wasn't, he didn't take care of a lot of babies. He was delivering them.
yeah.
So we'd meet each other in the hall, and he'd say, "Are we coming or going?"
Now, what did you do for work?
I was a medical secretary
Huh?
because I knew I was going to have a job because I had to borrow money also to go to school. And I only went to Middlebury 1 year. Then my uncle died, so we had a financial crisis. So I told my mother I'd stay home, and she said, "No, you won't. It's just as important for you to go." And so an aunt and uncle in Burlington, I lived with them a year and went to UVM a year as a special student because I knew I was only going to be here a year. And then I went to a school and took medical secretarial work because I knew I had to get a job to pay off my debt.
So how did your mom, with the help of your grandparents, right? She helped
Yeah.
raise, but what was it, 6 kids?
5.
5 kids?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot of work.
Well, it is.
Especially all so young.
Yes, but you know, we had to learn to do a lot of things. We had to do a lot of things before we went to school. And
Where do you sit in the 6 or 5? Where are you, the youngest or the
Middle.
Middle.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had older brothers.
2 older brothers and 2 younger brothers. We were all a year apart.
Oh, but it's not like they were older sisters taking care of you. They were.
Oh, no. Actually, I did. My mother had to go to lay clinic for 5 months. So my grandmother and aunt took care of the 4 boys, and I went with my father's half-sister in southern Vermont for the 5 months. I was, 3,
Wow.
2.5, 2.5, because my youngest brother was 6 months. So I went there every year till I was about 12, and then I got homesick, so I didn't go after that.
Wow.
They were
Do you
wonderful.
have more questions?
I think that's enough.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you'd like to say?
I'd just like to say this is a great place to live. It's very family-like, and everybody cares about each other. and it's a great place to end your days.